Well, the French President Emmanuel Macron and the Russian President Vladimir Putin met in southern France on Monday to discuss the world's major crises, including Ukraine, Iran and Syria, and also try to improve Moscow's relations with the European Union. Now, they vowed to give a new boost to peace talks with Ukraine and to improve Moscow's relations with the European Union during the meeting in southern France on Monday. Now, speaking in a joint news conference before the meeting, Macron spoke of his hope that the election of Ukraine's new president, Volodymyr Zelensky, provides an opportunity to relaunch negotiations in Russia's conflict with the country. Putin expressed some cautious optimism on the subject.
Я проинформирую господина президента о своих последних контактах с президентом, вновь избранным президентом Украины. Здесь есть некоторые вещи, которые можно обсуждать, которые внушают такой осторожный оптимизм.
But they disagreed on other issues, including Syria and the Russian crackdown on opposition protests. The French President Macron expressed hope that Russia and the European Union will create a new European security architecture, and France was ready to play a role in this process, including on disarmament and other issues, while Putin thanked France for its position on Russia's return to the Council of Europe and said that the Russian side also hoped for Paris's support in building a constructive relation with the European Union. And well, WION correspondent Ross Cullen is now joining us live from Moscow for the very latest on these talks between the French president and, the Russian president. Of course, a whole host of issues were discussed there, among them the more tricky ones being Ukraine and, of course, Syria and Iran as well, Ross.
Yes, that's correct, particularly on Ukraine, the two men hoping that there could be a possible way forward. They'd like to see the re-establishment of the Normandy format, the so-called structure under which Germany, France, Ukraine and Russia could look for a way forward for peace talks. And what gives both men hope that this could take place is the newly elected Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky and his plan going forward. What we're waiting to see for is more concrete, the harder foreign policy from Mr. Zelensky's team. But there are hopes that the Ukraine peace talks can go ahead and there can be a way forward for closer ties as a whole between Russia and the European Union and Europe as a whole through the Ukrainian peace talk process. That's not going to happen, however, while there's still the issues over the separatist conflict raging in the east of Ukraine and problems over the annexation of Crimea. Now, the annexation of Crimea in 2014 by Russia was one of the main reasons why Russia was expelled from the G8, which has now become the G7, and sanctions were imposed on Russia for that. Mr. Macron would like to position himself as the strong leader in Europe who is able to lead a way back forward for an improvement in the relationship between Russia and Europe. He sees the possible weakness in Germany with Angela Merkel's run as Chancellor coming to an end, possible weakness in Britain as a leader in Europe, obviously mired in entanglement over Brexit. So he hopes to position himself, and this is just the latest, the seventh meeting between Mr. Macron and Mr. Putin seen since Emmanuel Macron came to the French presidency in 2017. They touched on Syria, as we heard a little bit earlier, looking for a way forward if there is any, because both sides, Russia and France, obviously supporting different actors in that conflict. They looked for a way forward on possible Iran peace talks over the nuclear deal that the United States pulled out of. Russia and France still signatories to the deal, and see if there's a way forward involving the other actors, the signatories to that deal, Germany, the UK and China. So these major issues are always discussed when Mr. Macron and Mr. Putin meet. They even arranged their next meeting is going to be in May next year. But there is very little when it comes to substance. We don't see any major agreements on peace deals, just a kind of will from both men to seem to be dealing with major world conflicts and discussing them at these bilateral meetings that they have.
Right, Ross. Thanks very much indeed for joining us with the latest there. So a whole host of issues there discussed, but, well, what we see as outcomes, as Ross was saying, very little substance to this, a lot of promises and a will and desire to move forward, however.